Welcome, everyone, back to the School of Greatness podcast. I'm very excited about our guest today. His name is Dr. Mark Hyman. Thank you so much for being here.
So glad to be here, Lois.
Really excited about this. Now, you are one of the most influential, authoritative leaders in the doctor space that I've been, heard about. And you've been around for a long time. A number of New York Times bestsellers, a number of number 1 New York Times bestsellers. What are you on, number 12 now?
12 books, 9 New York Times bestsellers. The cookbooks didn't make it, and the last one, the 12th, is just coming out. So
12 is just coming out, and it's called Eat Fat, Get Thin, Why the Fat We Eat is the Key to Sustained Weight Loss and Vibrant Health. And essentially what you're saying is completely opposite of what we've been all told our whole lives, right? Why fat is the key to sustained weight loss.
Yeah,
good health.
Who would have thunk it, right?
Aren't we not supposed to have fat in our diet? Isn't it bad for us? Doesn't it create heart disease and high cholesterol and all these other things that are bad for us? Or is it actually...
That's what we were all taught, right? That's the whole line. Our government told us to eat 6 to 11 servings of red rice, cereal, and pasta today, to eat a low-fat diet. And fats and oils were sparingly only at the top supposed to be eaten. And yet that advice led to the worst obesity epidemic and diabetes epidemic in the history of mankind.
That's like the food charts that we all saw in school, right?
Completely opposite of what we should be doing.
Now,
and so the science has caught up with this bad advice. And the advice, unfortunately, Lewis, was based on really shoddy science, on very weak evidence, on a few population studies, not really experimental studies. In fact, all the experimental studies that told us to eat low-fat diets, they actually didn't tell us that we should be doing that. They were actually contradicting the recommendations that were developed in 1980 by the UK and the USA.
Really?
So basically, if you looked at the actual randomized controlled trials there weren't that many, but there was a few of them. They all said that eating low fat wasn't beneficial. But the population...
These were outside of the U.S. trials?
No, trials all over. Trials in the U.S.
Okay.
They just didn't look at that evidence. So the guideline committees who were working on it they sort of dismissed that evidence. And they had this theory, and they went with the theory. But because it made sense, right? If you look at calories, for example, fat has 9 calories per gram. Carbs and protein have 4 calories per gram. So you think, well, gee, if it has more calories per gram, if you eat less of it, you're going to lose more weight. It's logical.
Right.
But unfortunately, metabolism is not a math problem.
Yeah.
It's a metabolic problem. It's a hormonal problem. It's not energy balance. The whole idea of calories in, calories out. This is the biggest crock of that's been pushed on the American public, because there's a message implicit in that, which is if you just told someone to lose weight by eating less and exercising more, if they don't do it, it's their fault, right? Just eat less, exercise more. And if you don't, you're a lazy glutton. Right? So it's your fault you're fat.
Okay.
Right? But the truth is that it's not. It's not just about calorie balance. In fact, that's what the Global Energy Balance, quote, Global Energy Balance Network, which was actually funded by Coca-Cola, and they actually funded university scientists to kind of be the front people for this nonsense that's all about calories in, calories out, has been completely discredited. The New York Times wrote a big expose of this, but what we've been taught is that all calories are the same. They're actually not. So food is not just energy, it's actually information. It gives instructions, right? So this is like a big breakthrough in science, right? So food is not just calories, it's actually information. So the information in food communicates with your body every single minute. So every bite you take, it turns on or off genes that create health or disease, that make you lose or gain weight. It turns on or off hormones that make you lose or gain weight or create health or disease.
It's like a feedback for you.
It's direct instructions, and it works minute by minute. It's not something that takes a long time. It regulates inflammation. It regulates your hormones, as I said. It regulates your brain chemistry. It regulates even your gut microbiome, all the flora in your gut that we now know are linked to everything from weight gain, diabetes, to heart disease, to cancer, to autoimmune diseases, and so many other things.
It's the gut health, right?
Even depression and ADD and autism may be linked to changes in your gut flora. So we now know that when you eat food, it's not just about the energy in it. Because if that was true, then you could just survive on soda all day, and it wouldn't matter as long as you only ate 1,800 calories of soda. And I had this argument.
Right.
I had this argument with the vice chairman of Pepsi. We had dinner together, and I'm telling you.
No way.
Yeah, we had dinner. And the guy in between us, because I was sitting here, he was sitting here, the guy was like being in the middle of like a war zone. And I said to him, how can you say that eating 1,800 calories of soda is the same as having 1,800 calories of broccoli or almonds.
Right.
He says, well, as long as you have that amount of calories, you're not going to.
No.
It's not going to be any different. I said, this is just not how the body
You're not
works.
getting the nutritional value from that, right?
Right. I mean, well, it's not even nutritional. So just like look at 1,000 calories. Let's say 750 calories of broccoli is 21 cups, 35 grams of fiber, half a teaspoon of sugar, and tons of phytonutrients, phytochemicals that upregulate your genes that actually help you prevent cancer, that improve hormone metabolism, so many things, right? Same calories from a big gulp, 750 calories, 46 teaspoons of sugar, right? High fructose corn syrup upregulates your liver to turn on a fat production factory that makes high triglycerides.
Stores fat more, right?
Stores fat, lowers triglycerides. I mean, raises triglycerides, lowers the good cholesterol, causes a fatty liver, raises hormones that make you, in women, make them grow hair on their face and have lost hair on their head. Men, they drop their testosterone. They have no sex drive and they lose their hair on their bodies. All this from the same calories, right?
The number of calories.
Calories are the same,
Yes.
but the information in the food is very different. So now we have this concept that is actually really about the hormonal, I call it the hormonal hypothesis, which I talk about in Eat Fat, Get Thin, which is how do you change your hormones so you're not hungry all the time? Because
That's the key.
The typical advice, you eat low fat, and your fat actually makes you satisfied, right? Because if you eat fat, you're not craving all the time, you're not hungry, and it actually is a brain food because it actually stops the addiction center in the brain from turning on, so you never feel hungry or have any cravings. It also speeds up your metabolism. Fat speeds up your metabolism. Yeah,
So it helps you burn more fat. at
helps
the
you
same
burn
time,
more
right?
fat. It releases fat from the fat cells.
Interesting.
Right. So it makes you less hungry. It makes you burn more fat, and it liberates the fat from the fat cell. So it's really a powerful. Whereas if you eat sugar, the opposite happens. You get hungrier because you increase insulin. You drop when you.
I used to have so much sugar.
It's terrible.
I was addicted to it.
All of us were. I mean, I was too. I was a vegetarian. I eat like tons of whole wheat bread and sugar and honey and everything. Grape nuts and ice cream for breakfast.
That was my life, right? So when did you stop? When did the research become known, or the facts or the data become known?
It's not even. It's honest. That's why I
Because
wrote
you're a
this
doctor
book.
and you were eating sugar.
No, it's not
when
even.
When did you start to realize, and when did this information about fat become?
Well, it's been mounting for decades, right? So it's building on a mountain of evidence. And in the book, I reviewed over 1,000 studies, or 500 quoted in the book that I referenced. They wouldn't let me put more because there was no room in the back of the book.
Yeah.
And it's all well documented, and,
Wow.
and the science of this is very powerful. One of my colleagues, David Ludwig, wrote a book called Always Hungry. He's a Harvard professor, and he's done a lot of the research that this is based on, where he actually gave two groups of people same calories, but changed the percents of fat and carbs. And it was a very well-controlled study. And in the first group, they had 60% carbs, 20% fat, 20% protein. The other group switched it, 60% fat, 20% carbs, 20% protein. So it's the opposite. And the group that had the high-fat diet burned 300 calories more a day by doing nothing else.
Really? Just by having more fat?
By eating more fat. Their metabolism sped up 300 calories a day. It's like running.
Same amount of calories, though.
They ate the same amount of calories in.
But they burned 300 more.
Right, because their metabolism sped up.
Interesting.
Right. So in other words, it's like running an hour a day without getting off the couch.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Very powerful.
Yeah, and I know for me, as I've seen myself and my patients, the transformation's amazing, and their cholesterol gets better. It's totally contradictory.
Yeah.
Right? Fat is supposed to raise your cholesterol. Right? Eating cholesterol is supposed to raise your cholesterol. But for the first time since the dietary guidelines came out in 1980, the U.S. government in 2015 completely reversed their stance on fat. There's no more restriction. Like first week of January 2016.
This year. Like a few weeks ago. They just changed this.
They changed this completely.
The whole guide.
Completely. So first time they said, forget about fat. You can eat as much as you want.
No way.
No limit on fat.
This is the government,
The government, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee established these recommendations. This is a scientific group that establishes guidelines for the government. Helps them shape policy, and then the government makes the policy. They kind of
based around this research or this.
Yeah, they said, don't worry about fat, don't worry about cholesterol. Eggs are back, right? Eggs are back. Forget about the egg white omelets. Just eat the whole egg.
No way.
Completely. And they said it made me laugh. They said cholesterol is no longer a nutrient of concern. Quote, nutrient of concern. Like, well, we got it wrong for 35 years.
No way.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's totally different. And they also said that we should, for the first time, they said we should reduce sugar. Now, the policy advisors, who are the scientists, said we should limit sugar-sweetened beverages because they're proven to be linked to obesity and diabetes. But the government, because of the food lobby, changed the wording to say, no, we should be restricting added sugar. So we should eat less added sugars. Now, what's an added sugar? It doesn't say added sugar on the label.
Right.
So how do you know? Because the food labeling from the FDA is also influenced by the food lobby.
Right.
So it should say added sugar on the label, not just sugar. Right. So you don't know.
Right. Interesting.
So it's designed to totally confuse people. But the truth is that this is a huge advance, and now we actually have come to realize that this is not true. So the science around fat and how your body burns fat and what makes you fat is all really clear now. And it's all based on this hormone idea of insulin, which is a fat storage hormone.
Yes.
So anything you eat that increases insulin, which is sugar, refined flour. I mean, white flour raises your blood sugar more than table sugar. So if you had 2 slices of white bread, it raises your blood sugar more than a tablespoon of table sugar. You're like, I'm eating whole wheat bread. It's just as bad. Unless the bread is so dense that you can stand on it without it squishing, then you shouldn't eat it.
Shouldn't eat it.
No, like the German rye bread.
I love bread, though.
Yeah, everybody
That's the
loves
challenge.
bread. Now, the bread we eat isn't the bread we ate, right? So our ancestors ate very different bread.
It's not the hard bread.
It was very coarse, and we only had the grain mills that started in the 1800s. Before that, we couldn't eat refined grain, and now even whole wheat is super refined. It's just,
And are all grains bad as well, in your opinion?
No, I don't think all grains are bad. I joke. I say, in the book, I talk about, an induction plan, like basically a way to get quick start to change you from like just being storing fat to burning fat to eating fat to makes you thin. And that's a 21-day plan. And after that, I talk about how you transition to what I call a PEGAN diet. PEGAN, as opposed to paleo or vegan. It was kind of a joke because one day I was sitting...
In between?
Yeah, I was sitting on a panel with 2 friends of mine. One was a vegan cardiologist, and the other was like a paleo doctor.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I don't know. I guess I must be a PEGAN because I'm in the middle here.
Okay. What does a PEGAN diet look like?
So a PEGAN diet, what's amazing, Louis, is that the principles of paleo vegan are often very similar. So both groups believe that we should be eating whole, unprocessed, unrefined foods.
Yes.
We should get rid of food additives,
Foods
hormones.
From the ground,
everything.
Yeah.
No antibiotics, no hormones, no pesticides, no GMO. We should be having no MSG, no artificial sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup. Everybody agrees that's true. We also agree that everybody should be eating lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Right? A little heavy on the plant foods.
Yep.
Basic principles. Both agree that we shouldn't have dairy, which is interesting.
Yes.
Right? We'll talk about that.
Paleo, no dairy as well.
No
right?
dairy, right.
Yeah.
No dairy. No
I guess
vegan.
there's some of them that say like some specific cheeses or something.
Yeah,
or,
grass-fed butter. There's some things, but but the proteins in dairy are very inflammatory, and the dairy again we eat isn't the dairy we ate. We've hybridized our cows; it's all fertilized by one bull.
It's not organic dairy.
And it's not organic. It's not raw. It's not how our ancestors ate it. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Even organic cows, they milk them when they're pregnant, and they're just full of hormones. So,
okay.
And also, it's just not always tolerated well by many people.
Right.
And then,
what else do they both have in common?
Everybody agrees that we should be eating foods that are phytonutrient rich, that are nutrient dense, and we should be eating lots of nuts and seeds and lots of good oils like avocados and olive oil.
What's phytonutrient? What does that mean?
Phytonutrient is a chemical that's in plant foods. Phyto means plant, and it's not a vitamin or mineral. It's not a protein, fat, or carb or fiber. It's something else. So, for example, like broccoli has glucosinolates, which upregulates detoxification.
Okay.
Catechins are in green tea, which are powerful detoxifiers of metal, powerful antioxidants. Tomatoes have lycopene, which is a powerful cancer preventer for prostate cancer.
Okay.
Anthocyanidins. You can have black rice, which has anthocyanidins, which are powerful antioxidants that are in black rice. It's emperor's rice. Love that. It's also very low glycemic.
Sure.
So I think the things that they disagree on are basically beans, grains, and meat. Like where you get your protein from. Everything else is the same.
Paleo and vegan is the same. Except for meat, beans.
And protein. I mean, beans, grains, and protein.
Beans, grains, and protein. Okay.
Right. And I mean, meat.
Right.
And so,
Sure.
what I realize is that, I think many people who are sick do better when you take out certain things that can be inflammatory or high glycemic. So if you're, for example, carbohydrate intolerant and you're diabetic, which affects a lot of people, I talk about how do you find out if you're carbohydrate intolerant in the book, which is there's a questionnaire you can tell if you actually know if you're someone who's carbohydrate intolerant, like someone who's gluten intolerant. That means if they eat a lot of starch, if they have like 2 cups of rice, even if it's brown rice or 2 cups of beans, it can adversely affect their sugar. So I talk about like having less, like having smaller portions of beans and grains.
Sure.
And non-gluten grains in particular, because gluten can be very inflammatory for many people. I think for some people who don't react to it, it can be fine, but not in large amounts. And then I think meat is the big issue, right? So meat is the big issue. So should we be eating meat?
We were just had dinner the other night.
Right.
We both had meat, right?
We had fish.
We had fish.
We had black cod.
Yes, that's
which was awesome.
I had a mahi. You had a black cod. Is that what it was?
Oh, you had I had the black cod.
Yeah,
I had the black cod. The guy next to me had meatballs.
Yeah. Guy next to me had carne asada.
But, so the issues around meat also, I think, are everybody agrees, and fish, everybody agrees that if anybody eats meat, it should be humanely raised, it should be sustainably raised, it should be grass-fed, it should be not harming the environment. The ethical and the environmental issues around animal eating are big, and they're real.
Yeah.
I mean, I have many Buddhist patients. I have a Buddhist monk who's like an abbot who's is a diabetic, and he's never going to eat an animal. I need to help him understand he's never going to eat an egg, how to eat a higher fat protein diet, which is low glycemic. Right. So we can do that.
Okay.
Right. So more nuts and seeds. Less rice, more beans. Just there's strategies for doing that.
Sure.
And he did great. He lost 35 pounds, reverses diabetes, and now I have tons of bun people, praying for me.
That's great.
Yeah, and then the meat thing is tricky because it's also an environmental risk. If you're eating factory farmed animals, there's antibiotics in that, and there's runoff from the pesticides and fertilizers that damages our water supply and rivers and lakes. There's climate change that happens from the methane produced. It's more toxic to the environment than carbon dioxide. There's high energy use. 1/5 of all our fossil fuels are used for growing animals for human consumption. Our water is being used up at incredible rates for feeding animals. There's basically I think 70% of all water use, and there's basically only 5% of the world's surface is fresh water.
It's usable right
is
now,
fresh water.
Yeah.
Right, 1% is in Russia.
Wow. And
at least 4% for the rest of us, and 70% of that is being used for feeding animals for human consumption. So there's real environmental issues.
Sure.
So I think a factory farming should be not supported in any way, and we need to change that. And that means we need to change our patterns of consumption around meat. We need to downsize our meat consumption. I call it having condiment. Condiment, as opposed to like a condiment, like condiment. It should be a side dish or a dressing if you're going to eat it.
Sure.
And I think
not a full plate of steak. You mean?
I think there's 3 issues with meat. Right? There's environmental issues, there's moral issues, and there's health issues. So we kind of talked about the moral. I think that's people are entitled to their beliefs, and they should be able to follow whatever they want and be healthy. The environmental issues are real, and I think everybody would agree, whether they're paleo-vegan, that we need to stop harming the environment. And I think even if you're not paleo-vegan, everybody really believes that. In fact, the Dietary Advisory Committee that was advising the government said we should limit meat consumption because of the environmental impact. Right now, if you have grass-fed meat, if you have sustainably raised meat, you can't. It's not as abundant. You can't produce as much, and so we all have to eat less of it.
Right,
and it's more expensive. So, but that's okay. And I think that from a health point of view, when I really looked at the literature, and I did this in Eat Fat Get Thin, I looked at all the research that I could find on meat because I'm like, well, I don't know.
You want to know for yourself too.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm recommending to my patients. I'm a human too, and I want to live a long time, and I don't want to be doing something stupid.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out what does the science tell us about meat.
So you did all the research.
So I looked at all the research, and I wrote 8,000 words in the book on meat.
Wow.
There's a lot of research in there. And I addressed all these issues, environmental, moral, and the health issues were quite interesting. When we look at the studies on meat, and anybody can quote anything saying anything, right?
Right.
So you want the paleo people like, meat's healthy, here's all the research. And the vegan like, meat's going to kill you, here's all the research.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then you're at the average Joe, you're totally confused. And your average doctor, you're totally confused because we get no training in nutrition.
And they haven't done the research themselves.
No,
they're going off of their opinion or their theory.
Yeah, they're like average people like the rest of us in terms of nutrition science. They don't know because it's not what we learn, right?
Yeah.
I just am at Cleveland Clinic, and we implemented a nutrition curriculum for the first time in the medical school. They have this integrated in, which is so great. And
that's awesome.
I helped Tim Ryan, who's a congressman from Ohio, introduce Tim. You love Tim. He's great. Has he been on the show?
He's been on here, yeah.
He's great. Introduce a bill called the Enrich Act, which was a bill that is funding $15 million to fund nutrition in medical schools, nutrition education for doctors.
Interesting. That's what we need the most because doctors,
a
lot of the time, I feel like could heal a lot of their patients
through
food.
Oh my God. Well, food is the cause of most chronic disease. It's the cure for most chronic disease, and yet doctors know nothing about food.
And they just medicate a lot of the time.
Listen, it's so bad. I use food as medicine. That's food is the most powerful drug on the planet. That's why last week I was in Cleveland at the hospital teaching 300 black women how to cook in a cooking class. Like, that's what doctors should be doing because that's how I'm going to get people healthy.
That's real medicine, right?
That's real medicine.
Now, just a quick side note. What is your involvement what is functional medicine and what is your involvement at the Cleveland Clinic?
Can I finish my meat?
Yes, go ahead.
I was still rolling on the meat, and then we'll talk about functional medicine, and then we'll talk about Cleveland Clinic.
Perfect.
Because people want to know. Like, they're like, well, what about meat? They're like probably listening.
Let's do it.
So the science.
8,000 words.
I'm not going to give you 8,000 words, but I'll give you a few hundred.
Perfect.
So the science of meat was fascinating. So when I looked at the studies that showed it was harmful, here's what they were. They were mostly population studies, meaning they looked at groups of people, followed them, and then they asked questions of them. What did you eat last year? What did you eat last week? What did you last month? And they basically do these food frequency questionnaires, and then they correlate that with the risk of disease. And they try to control for all the confounding factors, but it's very tough. So the people who ate meat, they had more heart disease and more cancer and more death. But what else was?
They were smoking, they were drinking,
exactly.
they weren't sleeping,
right, exactly.
Stressed out.
So if you look at the data, they ate 800 more calories a day.
Yeah.
They almost ate no fruits and vegetables.
Tons of sugar.
They had tons of sugar and processed food, lots of fried foods. Drank more, smoked more, didn't exercise, and didn't take any vitamins and minerals. Well, guess what? They weren't as healthy as the other people. So most of the studies were like that. Now, there was a few studies that were interesting I found. One was a study of 11,000 people who shopped at health food stores. And they found there were like a lot of vegetarians and a lot of meat eaters. So who are the people who are, like healthy meat eaters who only eat grass-fed meat or who – because most of these studies were not on grass-fed meat either. They were on factory farm meat, right? So then again, how do you generalize that?
Sure.
But then there were these 11,000 people, and they followed them for many years, and they found that the meat eaters and the vegetarians, there was no difference in their health outcomes. Exactly the same. So if you're a meat eater who basically eats a healthy diet and has grass-fed meat versus a vegan or vegetarian, no difference in health outcomes. And you have a
healthy
lifestyle, then there's no difference. So there's other factors like how it affects your gut flora and so on, and I think, those are more complicated issues. I address all of them in the book, but at the end of the day, I think it's okay if you have no moral issues and you can eat sustainably raised meat and not in great quantities, and as part of your diet, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
So what does your daily diet look like?
Oh gosh.
The doctor himself.
So today I had I had a protein shake because I went to this friend of mine's company called Essential Foods, Living Foods, and he had this. It was like a hemp, coconut, chia, moringa, like coconut cream, like protein powder with lots of and I had a couple of that with a spoon of coconut butter for fat and almond butter for fat, and blended that up. That was my breakfast, and then lunch was and a big salad with lots of avocado, olive oil, and some wild salmon, which has fat. So that was, and dinner I haven't had yet. So
cool. Awesome.
And dinner I'll usually have a small piece of protein, and like I'll put 75% of my vegetable plate is vegetables.
Really?
So if I go out to eat, I'll order like 3 sides of vegetables, right? And if you look at your plate, by volume, 70 or 80% of your diet should be plant foods and non-starchy veggies, right?
Not potatoes and
and by calories, it should be like 50 to 60% fat. But fat doesn't take up a lot of space, so you can get a lot of calories in a little space and still eat, like if you put a lot of olive oil in your thing or eat coconut butter. So you don't have to worry about it. You just have to eat. And, the trick is I don't worry about how much I eat. I just worry about what I eat. And I make sure I have stuff. Like I know that I'm going to be like here, and I know how long it's going to be. So I always bring stuff in my pocket. Almond butter.
Oh,
so I just have like a pocket. I know I'm never going to be in a food emergency, so I'm not going to have to eat something crappy. And I think, I eat very little grains, very little beans. I do eat them. Yeah. I eat mostly vegetables and some low glycemic fruit, and I eat lots of nuts and seeds, and I eat good quality fish and animal protein.
What's low glycemic fruit? What does that include?
So I'm not eating like tons of pineapple and grapes and like those are sugary things.
Gotcha.
And I eat like berries and I eat mostly berries, and then I'll eat like an apples or pears sometimes, or kiwis or grapefruit or mangoes or papaya, things like that.
Nice. Okay. So let's go back to functional medicine.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
So functional medicine is
compared to regular medicine.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if people listening really have a great understanding of like what's happening right now in science, but it's profound. That the shift that's happening in our understanding of the body it's like Columbus going, "Hey, the Earth isn't flat."
Wow.
And
right now, the last few years.
It's just like the last decade or two.
Okay.
With our understanding of the human genome, of systems biology, of the body as a biological network, as a system. It's like an ecosystem where everything's connected, working together. And so the way we organize medicine is according to these organs. You've got your cardiovascular system, your neurologic system, your GI system, and so you go to all these specialists. Right? And everybody treats their part of your body. If you have a migraine, we're actually learning that it might be related to gut flora, or if you have now we know that you might be getting cancer because of your gut bacteria. Well, no oncologist is asking you what's going on in your gut microbiome.
Right.
And so now we know, for example, like the microbiome is a great example of this disruption that's happening in healthcare. The microbiome, which is your gut flora, it's like 10 times as many cells as your own cells. It's 100 times as much DNA as your own DNA. Huh. So we're kind of lazy. We have about as much DNA as an earthworm.
Okay.
But we borrow the DNA of the microbes in our gut to do things for us, and we borrow things from plants to do things from us, like for example glucosinolates. And so the microbiome is this huge thing that's got 2 to 3 million genes. We only have 20,000 genes, and it regulates your weight. You can swap out poop from a thin person into someone with diabetes and reverse it. Right?
Wow.
Amazing. We've seen people. I've heard stories of fecal transplants not only curing things like that, but like autoimmune diseases and
really
Parkinson's and people with MS and like crazy stories that I'm starting to hear. And there's research now going on aggressively in looking at fecal transplants for all sorts of diseases.
It's transferring poop from one person to another.
Yes.
What is that? How do you do that?
Well,
what's that process?
Well, they collect the poop. There's actually
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, you've never heard of this?
Never heard of this.
Oh my God, this is huge. So the
what is it called?
Fecal transplant.
Okay.
FMT, fecal microbial transplant. The way it came about was some doctor had a bright idea that there was this condition called C. diff, which is an infection of the intestines that happens after antibiotics, is life-threatening. And there's a huge amount of people who are now resistant to antibiotics because of all the antibiotics in our feed and in the animal production. So the drugs don't work. People die.
Wow.
And somebody thought, well, gee, if I put the poop from a healthy person into a sick person, let's see what happens. And the doctor did it, and the person was cured like that.
Shut up.
98% effective. 98% effective.
So how do you do this? I
So-
don't understand this process.
You want to get into it?
Give me
Well,
the 10.
we can do the
20-second
visuals.
version.
We can do-
Yes.
So basically, they take a fecal transplant specimen, like a donor specimen from a healthy person, and they screen them for all sorts of diseases, and then they spin it up with some saline, and then they inject it in with a
Straight up.
catheter or a colonoscope.
And then
They actually
and then
also
it just heals inside, or what's it do when it's?
Well, it goes in. It's like massive probiotics, right?
Oh,
Right?
interesting.
Yeah, and so
It's like an infusion of probiotics.
probiotics, and also there are actually pills now. They actually are making special
pills.
encapsulated poop pills, and it's not. I mean, this is published in the New England Journal of Medicine. I'm not talking about like stuff that's
Oh my
wacky. I'm talking
gosh.
about serious medicine that people are doing. But it's not just for that. Now they're looking at it for all sorts of things. So
People are cured right after one infusion.
yeah, it's amazing. So functional medicine is really
nuts.
understanding the body as a system and network, and understanding that the focus should not be on treating disease, but on creating health. So it's the science of creating health. It's the ultimate biohacking tool. And it's interpreting all the data and the stories from your body that it tells through testing we do. For example, you don't have to do testing, but you can look into the body and look at your immune function and allergies and your gut flora and toxins and nutritional status. It's like doing a soil sample. So I'm like a soil farmer, organic soil farmer, rather than an industrial agriculturist. I don't put all these chemicals on my plants to make them better, like herbicides and pesticides. I create a healthy soil, and then disease doesn't occur, right? Disease can't land in a healthy soil.
Right.
So that's exactly what functional medicine is. We help people get in balance. We take away the things that cause imbalance. We put in the things that help create balance. So, for example, I had a woman come. She had a whole list of problems. That's why I call myself a holistic doctor, because I take care of people with a whole list of problems. So she had like psoriatic arthritis, was on a drug that cost $30,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Called Stelara. And still was miserable. She also was overweight, had prediabetes, migraines, sinus problems, irritable bowel, reflux, depression, insomnia. She had like this whole list of things. Of course, she saw all these specialists: the sinus doctor, the migraine doctor, the autoimmune doctor, the skin doctor, the depression doctor, the gut doctor. Everybody's treating her with their best practices.
Their best drug, probably.
But I mean, she's being seen at a top medical center.
Yeah.
Right? They're not doing bad medicine. They're doing standard of care. In fact, they're doing excellent standard of care.
Right.
But the standard of care is not the way we're going to fix these problems.
It's outdated, or it's not.
It's not. It's totally outdated. So rather than thinking about how all these were separate, I thought, how are these all connected?
Interesting.
Right? How are these all connected? And so there were connections. It was all inflammatory. And I said, well, why don't we put you on an anti-inflammatory, low glycemic diet, the PEGAN diet, basically.
Right.
Took away anti-allergens, and I cleaned out her gut, because her gut was causing huge symptoms of bloating, and she had yeast reactions. She had like vaginal yeast and anal yeast and itching and itchy ears and yeast everywhere.
That's from the
yeast on her mouth and thrush. And so I gave her an antifungal. I gave her stuff to clear out the bad bugs in her gut. I put in good bugs. I put in enzymes. I put in things to heal the gut lining. I gave her fish oil, vitamin D, just some basic stuff, probiotics.
Yeah, but it's really eliminating
the bad foods, eliminating the bad bugs in her gut,
and putting
in new bugs, and putting in nutrients to help her body heal. 2 months later, she comes back completely symptom-free.
No way.
No more arthritis. No more $30,000 drug. No more skin psoriasis. No migraines, no sinus problems, no irritable bowel, no reflux, no depression, no insomnia, and she lost 20 pounds.
It was all from food.
Totally. And what was food and her gut flora?
Right.
I focused on her gut flora. Why? Because 60% or 50% of the immune system is in the gut.
Interesting.
Yeah, why? Why is it in the gut? Why is it there? Because you're sticking pounds of food, of foreign material every day in your body.
It's got to fight it off in your gut first,
and you've got all that bugs in there and poop. Right. It's like a danger zone, right? It's like you're like, and it's one cell away. Like you're one cell away from a sewer every minute.
Really?
Yeah, it's one cell between you and that mass of food and poop, right? So your immune system is like, if anything happens, like right there. Wow. So when people have autoimmune disease, it's often a gut issue. It's often a gut issue.
People didn't know this before, did they?
No. So now all this is really coming to light, and functional medicine is the operating system to interpret the data. It's a new set of lenses to think about how to solve it, and it's a system of treatment that helps people get back in balance.
Gotcha.
That's what's powerful. And then at Cleveland Clinic, the CEO of Cleveland Clinic, Toby Cosgrove, I call him the Wayne Gretzky of healthcare. He goes where the puck's going to be, not where it is.
Smart.
Right? And he's basically came after me to go set up a center there. And I'm
functional medicine center.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to Cleveland Clinic. It's like it's like I'm not going to go to a place where I'm going to have to bang my head against the wall, where it's traditional medicine, where they don't get this, where they're in the dark ages.
It's also known as one of the top hospitals in the world.
Of course, but it's the
right?
top hospital in the old model.
Yes.
Right? So I'm like, but he knows what's happening.
He sees where it's going.
He knows what's happening. He's like, we need this here.
Wow.
And so he's investing tons of money, millions and millions of dollars, building this. We're building an 18,000 square foot facility. We started with a little space and we just outgrew it. We're hiring doctors. I have an interview with the doctor right after this. And we're basically growing. We're doing research in all sorts of conditions. We're changing medical school education. We're changing policy. We're doing community work.
Amazing.
So he's really putting us on the map in the traditional world. And
because he's going to go out of business if he doesn't start doing this.
But what's amazing to me, Louis, I thought when I got there, people would be, skeptical, negative, make it difficult for me and my team there. But it's the opposite. And they want to learn. Last week when I was there, I had 2 deans of medical schools, 2 chairs of institutes, which are like big deals,
Right.
and another doctor as patients.
No way.
Yeah, they're coming as patients.
Because they're not being cured with the medicine.
The executive team, the C-suite team, is sending all their family members to come see us.
Do you know Dr. Lissa Rankin by any chance?
Yeah.
She's been on as well, and she talked about how she had all this medication she was treating herself, and then started to saying, "Oh, let me just change the way I eat and my relationships and my emotional health."
Exactly. It's all.
And she's like, "Oh, I got off all the medicine."
That's right.
And then I stopped giving medicine to my patients. Right. I started asking them deeper questions.
It's so powerful. So we're at this. We're at this fulcrum. It's not just I'm like one lone doctor with a crazy idea. There's a whole movement going on here. Yeah. We had dinner with James Maskell. He's helping move that movement forward. I'm the chairman of the Institute for Functional Medicine, where we train doctors all over the world in this model, an operating system of how to actually do this in practice. So we are literally building an army of doctors to change healthcare, and it's pretty exciting, and it's actually starting to really hit that hockey stick point where it's changing.
Amazing.
People want it. I mean, people are desperate for this model.
So if someone is listening and they're on some type of medication, or they're just feeling like constantly sick, something's constantly happening to them, what do you think is, because there's so much information online that it's scary.
It's scary, right.
Well, here's what I would say. Stuff, just like looking up anything and Googling it and seeing all the nasty photos and just like, what is an approach that someone should take if they have some challenge that's constantly happening in their health? Should they first analyze the food they're intaking and do like an analysis? Do you have like a process?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Louis. So, what I am is a doctor. And what I do is see patients in my office. That's my main job. Yes, I've written a dozen books. Yes, I do a lot of stuff, but that's my main job.
Yeah.
And so I've learned over 30 years of doing this how to create sustainable, practical programs to help people get from sick to well very quickly. And what I've done, because not everybody can come see me, and there aren't that many of us out there yet.
You have so many hours in a day.
And there's not that many functional medicine. So I've written books and programs to help people operationalize this in their own life. So Eat Fat, Get Thin. And I'm, I could say, do my program, but I don't really care what program you do. As long as it's based on the basic principles. And there are a lot of my colleagues who are writing great books about this. It's all the same information because it's all the same science. And if you're telling the truth, there's only one story here, the truth, right? And so this Eat Fat, Get Thin is a great program that I put together to make people have no friction. It's easy. It's very straightforward.
It's 21 days,
21 days, practical, goof-proof, and it tells you what to eat. And when you get to the end of that, you'll see how you feel, because most people in 21 days will change their habits, but they'll also allow their body to reset. It's like putting your body back to its original factory settings, right? And then if something's left over, then maybe I need to go deeper. Like if you still don't feel great, maybe you have Lyme disease. Maybe you have heavy metal poisoning. Maybe your thyroid's not working. Maybe you have a parasite. Maybe, you could be eating the perfect diet but still feel bad. So
do the 21 days first.
Yeah, but 80% of the time,
you're going to cure yourself.
80%. 80% of the time, this works for people, and then the 20% who have to get extra help, they need to come see somebody.
And the body's pretty incredible in how it can heal itself very quickly once you change habits, right?
Unbelievable. We did the survey of 1,000 people who did this. I mean, they lost weight, yes, and they lost inches, yes, and that's all impressive. And their blood sugar dropped 20 points, and their blood pressure 10 points. But the thing that really matters to me is I have everybody fill out what I call the FLC quiz. You know what that is? That's when you feel like crap.
Okay.
So it's a quiz. How do you do you have bloating? Do you have asthma? Do you have headaches? Can you sleep? Like joint pain, muscle pain? What's your mood? Are you depressed? So you fill this whole score and 0 to 4 for every symptom, and you get a score. They do one before and after. And the before and after score, there was a 69% reduction in all symptoms from all diseases.
Whoa.
Because you don't have to treat everything individually. If you put in the right information, like I said at the beginning of the show, the body knows what to do.
Wow.
Right? So the information in food is so powerful that if you figure out what to eat, you don't have to worry about how much. You don't have to count fat, grams, carbs, calories, nothing. I don't do that. I don't have time for that.
Right.
And I don't want to be on an app all day figuring it out. I just want to know how to get my body to naturally do what it's supposed to do.
Sure.
Right? If you're off by 100 calories a day, you're going to gain like 50 pounds in 30 years. Right? You can't do it by willpower. You have to use science. And the science of using fat and low glycemic food, like low sugar food, is really powerful. It's magical. Right. I mean, I noticed my own body. I'm like 56, and I noticed
you're young, man. You're like fit, healthy, energetic.
No, well, I can tell you, I was always been focused on health, but I was the doctor who was trained to eat low fat and to tell my patients to eat low fat, and I did that. And I also ate a lot of things that I thought were healthy, like pasta was a health food.
Oh my gosh.
Pasta was a health food.
I used to eat so much pasta.
Yeah, health food, right? Low fat, health food
all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I basically changed that, and I started, eating a lot less starch, a lot less sugar, a lot more fat, and I noticed my body, like, without any exercise, I'm like so lean, so fit.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I got a six-pack and I didn't even work out. It's like, and it's just stunning what happens when you do, and my brain is clear, I have more energy, my mood's better. Yeah. I mean, I saw you're drinking a bulletproof coffee. You know that it works.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I started testing some different things at the beginning of this year in January. And the first week I did no sugar. The second week, no sugar, no gluten.
Yeah.
Third week, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy. Fourth week, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no meat. That was last week. And I was just to see what happened with my body.
Pulling a Band-Aid off slowly.
Yeah, I should have just done it all.
It's better to do it the other way. The way I do with my patients, you do a detox. Basically, you get off everything
at once.
You feel bad for a couple of days, and then you see how you feel.
I feel amazing, yeah.
Because one of the rules of...
I should have talked to you before this. I don't know what I was thinking.
And then you can add things back one at a time and see what bothers you.
Interesting.
So, because the rule in functional medicine is if you're standing on attack, it takes a lot of aspirin to make it feel better, right? So if something's bothering you, you have to get rid of the cause. But if you're standing on two tacks, taking one out doesn't make you 50% better.
Very interesting.
So if you're allergic to dairy and gluten, but you just take out gluten, you're not going to feel better.
Right.
Right?
Right. So I did the whole wrong way. Oh, well. It was an experiment. But the thing what I was going to mention was I started doing bulletproof in the morning.
Yeah.
And fasting until 1:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not eating after 9:30 or whatever it is at night. And I realized that I wasn't hungry in the mornings when I would do the coffee. And I would only have like half a cup only.
Yeah.
And I would be fine until 1:30, 2 o'clock.
MCT oil puts you in ketosis, which is medium chain triglycerides. It's a super fuel. It comes from coconut, which is in the coffee. It's what I recommend as part of my Eat Fat, Get Thin program. Speeds up your metabolism. Even
you're burning fat.
Yeah, it actually makes your metabolism work faster and burn more calories.
Wow.
And it also affects your brain. So your brain is more alert, focused, and clear. So I wrote most of Eat Fat, Get Thin on MCT oil and coffee in the morning.
I love it. I love it. And why did you get in? I want to ask you a few more questions. Why did you get into medicine in the first place? What inspired you 30 plus years ago or whenever this was?
Yeah. So, I actually majored in Buddhism at Cornell.
Wow.
So I did not even think remotely about medicine or science. In fact, I only took science classes because they were required for my degree at Cornell, but I didn't even do that well in them. I got a C in biology and I think a C in chemistry. I think I might have got a C plus in biology. But it was like the pre-med courses that everybody jumps off the bridge for.
Sure.
And I didn't take it that seriously. So then I got my degree in Buddhism. But when I studied Buddhism, I found that it was actually a healing system. It was a therapeutic system for the mind. And in fact, it was a way of looking at our perceptions, our beliefs, our attitudes, our thinking in such a way that freed us from suffering.
Right.
And it was powerful. And it also had a tradition of healing. All the doctors in the Buddhist tradition were monks. So I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I kind of got this idea in my head. I was a young idealistic kid, and I had this concept of a bodhisattva, which is this being who kind of betters themselves. But rather than, going to be living in a cave and being by themselves and having a happy life, they come back in the service of others, to help others, also to reach enlightenment.
Right. Okay.
So I kind of always had that in my head, and I always felt better when I was of service.
Sure.
So when
most people feel better when they're in service.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting, Lewis, when we look at the science of this, altruism stimulates the same area in the brain as cocaine or sugar or heroin.
Crazy.
Right? So I get high from helping people.
I think Stephen Kotler talks about that in his book, Flow, or about flow.
It's so true.
When people get into flow, and when they're in service, you become in flow, and that triggers the same type of chemicals, right?
Absolutely. You get out of your head. Like I went to Haiti after the earthquake and was, up to my elbows in pus and amputations and blood and disaster, and just it was like the worst scene you could imagine. But like I didn't think of myself for 1 second.
Right.
Right.
Just in service.
I was just in service, and I felt good. Like I felt, and I'm like, just grateful and happy. Not happy like because I was there. It was a miserable place that was happening with the earthquake. But I actually had this sense of inner peace and inner happiness and
like your life
gratitude and service. And I think that's really in a way, it's a little selfish.
Sure. No, giving is like the most selfish gift you can give. It's like the best gift you can give.
Yeah. So that's sort of how I got. And then I realized, maybe I should practice medicine because it's about healing. And And I sort of said, well, I'll try it. And I was a yoga teacher before I was a doctor.
Wow.
And
back before yoga was cool.
Yeah, that was like in 1979.
Wow.
Took my first yoga class, and
amazing.
I just went to yoga before I came here, so it's been going on a long time.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, a couple final questions, and I want to make sure everyone gets this book, Eat Fat, Get Thin: Why the fat we eat is the key to sustained weight loss and vibrant health. Essentially, what everything we've said growing up is the opposite of what we were told.
Sorry, guys, we kind of blew it.
But Eat Fat, Get Thin. 21-day process for discovering, and healing yourself, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just for weight loss. It's actually for anybody who wants to reset their system.
Interesting.
And gain back control of their body. And so you actually naturally want the things that make you feel good, that you don't crave the bad things, that it's not difficult. I mean, you can't use willpower. It doesn't work. You have to use science, right? And it's so great.
I like it. I got 3 questions for you. One is, if you had an unlimited amount of money that you could spend on one thing to cure one thing in the world, what would that be?
One disease or one
thing in the world that you think needs curing, or solving one issue?
Oof, gosh, I mean, so many things flooded into me when you said that. I mean, I think the thing that I think is driving so many of our economic and social ills is our food system. And if I had a magic wand, I would put in I'm working actually on a petition right now. I've got 150,000 people on our Fat Summit, which is an online summit and we're interview over 30 experts on fat. And it's available. Anybody can go to fatsummit.com and get to see this. Yeah. And to kind of list what are the policies that would really radically change things, not just in America, but around the world if we became the beacon for this. And I met with the Surgeon General a couple of days ago, and he asked me to come to Washington to help change and shape this policy. So the things that matter are, ending ending agricultural subsidies for commodity products like corn, soy, and wheat that go into all our processed industrial food. Subsidizing fruits and vegetables and things that actually promote health. Yeah. Ending food marketing to kids. Right, we market junk food to kids. I think we're one of only 50 countries that we are one of the only countries that doesn't do this. 50 countries control food marketing to kids.
Really?
Regulated. Yeah. Us and Syria, are the only ones, I think.
Oh my gosh.
I would end all use of antibiotics in animal feed except in animal husbandry, except for treatment of disease. Full stop. I would have clear food labeling so that people know what they're eating. Is it good for you? Green. Is it maybe a little tricky? We'll eat with caution. Yellow. Is it bad for you? It might kill you. Red. Stop. Simple.
Like when you have cigarettes now, there's this will cause cancer. This will kill you.
I would, and this is controversial, but I would put a tax on junk food and soda, which has been proven to work and reduce consumption. This was just done in Mexico. It was super effective. Done in Berkeley, first place in America. Very effective.
Interesting.
It's like cigarettes. Yeah. Tax cigarettes. If a Coke was actually $10, I would actually make things cost what they really cost. The only reason a McDonald's meal is so cheap is because the government pays for it and subsidizes it.
Really?
I met with the vice chair of Pepsi. He said, "Why are you using high fructose corn syrup in your soda?" He says, "Because, Mark, the government makes it so cheap for us by subsidizing agriculture and the growing of corn that's turned into high fructose corn syrup. That's why we're using it. It's good business. I wouldn't use it if the government didn't make it so cheap." So I would end subsidies.
Oh my gosh.
I would end any food that wasn't promoting health in any federally funded program. Food stamps. You can buy $4 billion now of food stamps are spent on soda for the poor. $4 billion. It's the biggest single amount of item that's bought.
Yeah, soda.
Yeah. You can buy a 2-liter bottle of soda, but you can't buy a rotisserie chicken. You can't buy with food stamps online because of some stupid regulation. We're trying to change that. Wow. So I would implement a whole series of policies like this. I would also make sure that we really promote science and nutrition in school, so kids know very early on what's going on. There should be no food that doesn't promote health in schools. We know that there's clear evidence that kids who are fed poor foods, and I'm not talking about like school lunches that are quote healthy, right? I mean, pizza is considered a vegetable.
Pizza,
right?
yeah.
Pizza's a vegetable. According to Congress, pizza's a vegetable.
Oh my gosh, that's all I ate every day.
Yeah. and so we need just clear policies that we could change all of this in America, and I think people are ready for it. People want it. People know the issue is here. We need to end in the kinds of industrial agriculture we're doing that are actually promoting degradation of the environment, and we need to label GMOs because the centralization of seed production has caused huge problems. Glyphosate is now Roundup is used on soybeans. 98% of soybeans are Monsanto soybeans.
98%,
I think it's something like 98%
oh my
of world's.
gosh.
So the centralization of seed production, and that it's made, even if you debate GMOs are good or bad, they're using all this pesticides and herbicides because of these that are actually now getting into the water. Now we know that glyphosate now, according to the World Health Organization and an International Board of Scientists, is a cancer-causing agent. Which is, and I'm excited because in my practice, I'm going to start doing glyphosate testing for like seed people because people don't know what they're consuming. So I would do a series of things that would really, if I had all the money in the world, to really change this. Wow. Michael Bloomberg, he sort of tried to do this. He had all the money in the world, and he made huge policy changes in New York. He got rid of trans fats. He changed all kinds of food laws. He actually started to try to regulate soda, but the food industry came down so hard on him.
So much money they had to, yeah. Wow. Amazing. That would solve a lot of problems if you change these things.
It would help our environment. It would help our economy because Medicaid and Medicare are going to consume 100% of our federal budget in about 20 years.
Oh man!
Right? Because of the obesity and diabetes epidemic. One in 3 people is going to be diabetic by 2050.
That's bad.
Right? 1 in 3.
Unless we change something.
Yeah. Right. It's right. Unless we change something. So we have to solve it. It's an economic issue. It's a national security issue because kids are too fat to fight. It's a global competitiveness issue because there's an achievement gap because we're like 25th and 28th, I think, in math and reading in the world because our kids are...
We're not clear. We're not focused. We can't...
No. And this is well documented. There's a guy named Dr. Bosch at Columbia who's done a lot of studies on this achievement gap. Sure. So the evidence is there across the board. Environment, health, the economy, competitiveness, national security. These are big issues.
Yeah.
And it all stems from the food system.
Incredible. 2 final questions. One is something I ask everyone at the end of this podcast, every episode, is if many years down the road, it's your final year. It's your final day. It's a very happy, healthy, joyful experience. You got your whole friends and family there, and your 50 New York Times best-selling books at that time are all erased. And deleted and burned for some reason. It's just all gone. All the videos you've done online, which people should go watch, they're amazing videos. What do you call it? Office hour? Or what do you call it?
House call with
House
Dr.
calls, yes.
House call with
Make
Dr.
sure to check
Hyman,
these out, and we'll link up your YouTube and everything there on the show notes here in a second. Everything's gone. All the information you put out there, all your hard work is gone.
It's gone, yeah.
And you have a piece of paper in front of you, and your family and friends say, will you write down 3 things that you know to be true about your experience, your life, that you would want to pass on to the rest of us. And this would be the only 3 truths that we get to remember you by. From all your books, how do you boil it down to 3 simple things?
That's good. I love that. So I think it wouldn't be hard.
Okay.
It wouldn't be hard. And it really has nothing to do with medicine, actually. It has to do with love. If I would say the most important thing is how we are in the world, how we show up. And if we bring joy and love and connection and laughter to those we meet and those in our lives, our family, our friends, those we're connected to, the people we work with, every day is a chance to show up and bring that. And the more you do that, the more it comes back. And it's just like this process. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's just a very simple idea. It's an ancient idea. It's not my idea, but it's all about the question is, how do you get into that state where you can do that?
Right.
Well, then you have to cultivate that. And part of it is taking care of your container, right? Because if you feel like crap, you're not going to want to do that, right? You're going to want to watch TV. You're going to want to drink. You're going to want to eat too much, right?
Right.
But if you take care of the container, then, you just basically will thrive. So that would be probably number 1, 2, and 3 on my list.
Okay.
Is show up, be present, tell the truth, love,
Perfect. Yeah. There you go. I love it. Awesome. The final question before I ask it Is there anywhere else we want to make sure we send people? drhyman.com.
drhyman.com is a good spot.
Get the book. We'll have it all linked up here in a second. I'll tell you guys where to go, but get the book, Eat Fat, Get Thin. Tons of videos, resources.
Yeah, they can get a free sneak preview if they go to the website, Eat Fat, Get Thin. They can get a free sneak preview. Check it out. There's tons of great videos, content, and support.
I highly recommend your site as a great resource for just learning and understanding how to be healthier and live better.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll check all this out. Make sure to buy the book. I highly recommend it. Before I ask the final question, I want to acknowledge you for a moment. I like to acknowledge all my guests for what opens up for me from the interview. And I want to acknowledge you, Mark, for your incredible commitment to healing the world.
Yeah.
And there's so much lack of information. There's so much ignorance that myself and so many people have experienced growing up, thinking we're supposed to live a certain way that's actually been killing us slowly every day.
Yeah.
And it's people like you who are committed to greatness and excellence in curing this and doing the research, doing the work that no one wants to do, and the research that no one wants to do to put together useful information to guide us to living a healthier life. So I want to acknowledge you for your incredible commitment to service for humanity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the final question is, what's your definition of greatness?
My definition of greatness is someone who fully shows up, is fully present in their life, is able to tell the truth with love, and be in a state of loving and giving and presence.
Mark Hyman, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking right here to subscribe, because each week we come out with awesome, epic, and inspiring interviews and messages and videos just for you. So click subscribe right here to get notified of new videos every week. Also, if you enjoyed this specific interview, we've got a lot of great interviews like this that are uplifting and inspiring. So click right here to watch the previous interviews, because the people I've had on are pretty cool and epic as well. So click here to watch previous interviews. Click here to subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you very soon.